Good evening, dudes and deucesses. Hope all is well. Hope everybody had an interesting weekend. I know out west, you guys had some wonderful weather. Out here, it was anything but wonderful. Wonderful if you want to somehow rekindle your memories of winter. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how it affected Jim's and Jay's and Lawrence's weekends. But needless to say, what a change in the weather. Now we're getting that warmth from out west. We have 30-degree weather planned for tomorrow. Like unbelievable. I'll tell you, what a roller coaster we're on. First and foremost, though, speaking about our Western folks and our Western CFNers, our thoughts are with you guys. It's all over the news right now, the forest fires that are going on. We're thinking, and it doesn't look like they've got much under control right now. It seems like it's only getting worse. They talk about the smoke and how that's going to infiltrate as far down as Florida. So needless to say, if you're getting that much smoke and it's impacting southern states, that's quite a fire. So for all those who are being uprooted, evacuated, and their lives are flipped upside down because they're losing homes, they're losing property, and what have you, as I said, our thoughts and prayers are with you guys, and hopefully there's an end real quick to this. But I can't imagine there's going to be. And to all those volunteers that are out fighting these fires, whether they're paid or volunteering, God bless you all. I tell you, your work is you got your work cut out for you. I'm telling you. Doesn't look good, and as the news loves to dramatize everything, if it's half as bad as the news is claiming it is, it's pretty bad. So, as I said, for all you Westerners in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, that are dealing with these things, as I said, we're thinking of you. That's about all I can say, and maybe at some point we might even do a fundraiser to help support some incredible causes that are definitely going to come out of this. There's no doubt about it. How we doing, Gaster? Nice to see you. Bob's in the house. Evening, Bob. Steve Shaw. Hello, brother. How you doing, my friend? Lloyd's here with us. Thanks again for all your sharing, Lloyd. Tony, hopefully you win some of these contests that you get you and I signed up for. I'm hoping you do anyway. You certainly do enter enough of them. And as I said, there's some really cool prizes. So if you don't follow Tony and you'd love to, for the sake of maybe winning a few cool things, use your man. Shane Richard's in the house. How you doing, Shane? Always a pleasure to have you, my friend. Ed McKenzie. Love you, Ed. How you doing, bud? Hope all is well. I might actually come and see you on Friday on my way out to Jim's event. I'm going to be heading out to Big Jim's kids event this weekend, so I'll pass by and make sure I say hello to my beloved Ed. Steve, how you doing, buddy? I'm sure you're going to be at the event as well, as you always are. Looking forward to seeing you there. Mark's in the house. How you doing? 10th anniversary. Yeah, baby. Yes, sir. And again, for all those who aren't aware, the proceeds, so the CFN proceeds that come to CFN are all going towards our Derby on Wheels initiative. We are going to be putting a trailer together, as I mentioned, with 200 pre-strung rod combos and reels. Be a wide variety, I'm assuming, probably from the industry, just to show support for the entire industry. But we'll have some Keynote Shimano stuff in there as well. We'll have a fridge for the worms and any of the food that we're going to be cooking. And there's a cooktop, which of course has been donated by Enbridge. And we have a sound system that has been donated by POW Castings. So it is definitely on its way to fruition. And I'm really appreciative of efforts like that, Mark. It's very simple. Just buy a jersey and you help a great cause and look pretty good doing it. So appreciate that. Yeah, I bet there's lots of smoke, Lloyd. I can't imagine what it's like out there for you guys. I'm sure it's a struggle and a half. Corey, how you doing, bud? Always a pleasure to have Corey here. Adrian's in the house. Holy smokes, we got lots of you folks. This is impressive. Jim, how you doing? Nice to see you. Gary, always a pleasure, my friend. Keep that young lad doing what he does best. Those videos are fantastic. And yeah, we definitely got to be featuring a few more of those so throughout the course of our incredible content that continuously gets shared on a regular basis here on CFN. But it's because of kids like your son, man. I'm telling you, I love stuff like he's doing, Trevor Barnucz is doing. It's great stuff. So send it my way. Really like to help pump his tires and promote his incredible efforts. Truly appreciate. Hey, Eve, nice to see you as well. For all those who I do not say hello to, I'll say to now. I certainly mean to say hello, but we do have to get started as we got lots to talk about. As mentioned, it is our 10th anniversary. And of course, if you want to help us celebrate that in any way, shape, or form, one way you can do that is with the purchase of a jersey. And they are some beautiful renditions here that our good buddy Walt helped put together with Dan Coates from Premier. And I keep forgetting every single time I do this every Monday. I forget to put up the link. Steve, if you have a chance, just throw out the link so folks can purchase one of these. But if you don't see it tonight, just head on over to our page, and it's posted there with a whole bunch of CFNers on the photo itself, showing off the goods. But some beautiful stuff here, and all the provinces are represented. Of course, our beloved sponsors on the back, who have done us so proud over the years, and we truly appreciate their support. It continues to allow us to grow and build and do things for kids, for everybody in the fishing community. That's what we're here to do, and help support and just make fishing fun, and expose it to as many people as we possibly can. Richard's done a fantastic job. As I said, I have been seeing these hats and especially these hoodies everywhere. So big shout out to Richard, who will help you purchase these. Just reach out to Richard Dunlop, whether it's here on the show or in a message or DM, whatever you want to call it. He will be happy to help you. We do, of course, have a bit of an issue when it comes to Canada Post. We are hoping that they resolve the issue very soon so that we can get your garments out to you as quick as possible. We do have other shipping options that we can move forward with as well. I mean, Canada Post doesn't do everything. So if you are in the midst of ordering, or you want to order or have ordered and you're waiting for your goods, be patient. We have a full faith that they will find a resolution with Canada Post. But if not, anything that is ordered from this point on, if we have to make alternative arrangements, we will certainly do so. We don't want you folks to go without. We truly appreciate the support, and we want to get the CFN swag on your back. As mentioned, tentatively, I believe that this event is now sold out. However, our good buddy Jim Wilson is from Fishhawk Fishing Adventures and Charters. Jim has put out a post, and I believe someone that he was initially going to take to Horwood has backed out. So he is offering up a ride, everything. So just reach out to Jim Wilson if you haven't seen the post. If not, just reach out to Horwood Lake Lodge. Either way, we will make sure you get your butt booked in a bed. But tentatively, I was told that we might be sold out. So there might be just the one available bed that Jim's friend was going to use, and unfortunately is unable to make it. Either way, these are the incredible hosts that are going to be hosting the 7th annual CFN retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge. Warren and Doris are awaiting your call, so please reach out to them. That's all the information you need. And as it is right now, if you have seen any of the posts coming from Horwood, the walleye are active and hungry. So looking forward to that. As I said, with the delay, I have a feeling the fishing is going to be off the hook this year. Absolutely off the hook up there. Water levels are high, which is again a good thing. So yeah, everything is falling into place, if you will. All the stars are aligning. And of course, it is Monday, and it would not be a typical Monday without showing our respect and love for Camp McIntosh. And of course, it is Monster Monday, and that is a monster slayer right there, Kevin Fernandez. If you are looking to join us up at Camp McIntosh, we'd love to have you. September 24th to the 28th, $820 per angler, and all the fun, fishing, food, and good times are included in that. If you want, please reach out. If you can't make it to the retreat, please reach out to Tracy and Andre and make sure that you get yourself the experience that we just look forward to. Make sure you get a chance to share in that experience, because it truly is a unique fishery, and we absolutely love it. But we're looking forward to seeing you up there. As it is right now, there are still spots available, so we're looking forward to you folks getting booked up in there. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to talk about before bringing in the Jim. If you are, in fact, interested in, if, let's say you're a small tackle producer, a large tackle producer, and everything in between, the North Channel Walleye Open is going to be happening September 19th to the 20th. We are going to have an expo. Currently, right now, I believe we have 8 vendors signed up. The venue itself is going to be able to house a good number of you, and then we have an auxiliary tent that we're going to be setting up, so we'll be able to host vendors in there. So if you are a vendor and you want to be a part of a really cool tournament that's going to see a lot of people walk in and out on a daily basis, by all means, please reach out to me, and I will get yourself booked up. We will be making posts and making sure that there's something formal on the website so you folks can register. But in the meantime, just stay tuned. There's lots of stuff that is still to come. How we doing, Douglas? Nice to see you there, my friend. I think your wildfires in Canada, they should actually knock the fire down before. Yeah, it's possible. Corey, fingers crossed. That's what we hope for. Steve, thanks so much. That is the link right there for your CFN jersey. Thanks so much, buddy, for doing that. Funny enough, Shane, so Mike and I have been talking at great length in regards to the fish off. It looks like we might be delaying it a little bit. We are in the midst right now of talking to My Catch, the judges, to make sure that they're available. All the prizes are set to go from Shimano. And again, a big shout out to Shimano for helping us out in a huge, huge way. Yeah, we will be discussing the fish off. If not this Wednesday, I can guarantee you next Monday we will make an announcement. We'll be putting artwork together. The CFN fish off is going to be a go in a big way. So stay tuned. Thanks for that, Shane. Christian, there's the man. That's the guy. Yeah, those videos, I want them. I want them for our CFNers. You're doing some great work, bud. Keep it up. Keep it up. Mitch, always a pleasure to see you, dude. And of course, all the pictures that you're taking of your various travels. You're quite the photographer. And of course, you have the accolades to go along with it. Proud of you, bud. Keep up the great work. Someone that has also done and continues to do great work, our beloved Big Jim McLaughlin, who's going to be coming up right after his opening segment.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
Yo, yo.
Yes, it is. How you doing, Jim?
What's going on?
Well, let's start this segment off right. Let's start with a little bit of fish porn. You know, we haven't done this in a while, and I know this is
got a
right
new hat.
Oh, buddy, look at you.
Where's the tag? I can see.
Wow. I see why you went with the yo, yo, yo in the beginning. Wow. Good for you, man. That's awesome.
What a nice hat.
I like it. Yeah. That's really nice.
Makes me look even better. I know it's amazing.
Is Moose making those, or are they coming right from BKK?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I don't know. It could be. It's got a BKK tag on it, but I'm not sure.
Probably not then. But yeah, I mean, as I said, Moose has done so much for BKK. I just assume that he's doing the hats too. But yeah, it looks good on you, man. But don't cover up that flow too much. But as I said, yeah, I see that.
That's why all the hats that I had that didn't fit now. I'm serious. I ran home, pulled out the box of hats. Yeah, I like this one. It fits.
Now, hard to believe for those who don't know you, and maybe they just don't know your favorite species. Hard to believe that bluegill are your go-to species. You absolutely love your bluegill.
I could do it all day. always have a slip bobber sitting here with a little titsy little thing on the end to be sure you get bit. You know.
Now you know a lake down south called Lake Havasu.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're already excited. Your heart rate is going.
Give me a call, quick.
Look at this thing, Jim. Look at this slob. Like, what is that? That is one.
Could it be a
That is a
red ear?
yeah. It's a red ear sunfish, but I didn't know they grew that big.
I don't think the sunfish knew that either. Like
Holy!
5-6 pounds.
I mean, I made sure I went around to see if this was like an AI generated photo. It's been posted on various sites, and of course, there is a contributing author that is laying claim to it. So, believe it or not, folks, this is one of those. Is it a monster or myth? This is a monster. I don't know what it weighs. I don't know the size of it, and at this point, who cares? Just
I
look.
need to catch that.
Holy! Well, Jim, just close your eyes. I'm sure you can. I'm positive you can. What a fish, man. Now, bluegill. Have you ever caught anything similar to that size?
Oh God, no! I've had some. I have a picture. I don't know if I can find it, but in the picture there's two. I know it's somewhere. Oh, it's not. Oh yeah, here it is. These are
Oh, I remember this. Yep.
they're both bigger than the Ontario record.
Wow.
Because we went in and I was showing the guys at the OFAH the one up on the wall that they have there
Yeah.
for the record pumpkin seed. And
Uh-huh.
it's 1 pound 7 ounces or something. Those are both probably a pound and 3/4. They're both close to 12 inches long. So you figure a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. That's how big they are.
Yeah.
They're absolute monsters. We caught those in.
Well, that's close. Like, I
30
mean, obviously a little bit bigger, but it's close to what you were holding up there in terms of its
Oh no,
just
no.
its size.
Yeah, this thing here is like 5 or 6 pounds, Scotty. Look at his
That's
hands on it.
crazy.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's
What a
huge.
fish.
Absolutely huge.
Unreal. Weather has been something to be desired. I know our folks out
Medium
west.
this afternoon.
So I think it was cold enough to snow on Saturday down our. It was freezing. Peter had his kids event this past weekend. I know you headed over there.
Yeah, I went up. I was an absolute wreck I could hardly move on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was hard. Peter and I were both in the same boat, but
Oh, wow.
it started raining, and the wind was so strong that like there was waves lapping up on the shore. It was blowing right in at the dock, and it was like gusting to 60. I think it was 66 Ks. It was gusted to.
Well, a lot of the photos are these kids all bundled up with blankets and.
Well, look at them with the mitts. See them with the mitts and gloves on in the front row there.
Yeah.
And they were like a buddy of mine sent me a picture after I left. I told him I come down. I just go down to the beginning, hang out for an hour or two, give the kids some stuff and that, eh? And it was brutal.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, how tough these kids were.
Yeah.
And like there was people came down, went out with their kids. They were there for 5 minutes and they left. The kids were holding their hands. I don't think you realized had any concept how in the space of an hour or two, how miserable it got.
Yeah.
I got up here in the morning and I was outside and I thought it's not that bad, you know. And by the time I got up to Smith Falls, it's only 45 minutes up there. And I got up there and I thought, I'm sitting in the truck. I got gas when I was up in Smith Falls, and I'm sitting getting the gas. The guy's pumping the gas and the truck's going like this with the wind, you know. I thought, where did that come from? Because when I left here in the morning, I was down looking at the swans and to see if they had the babies yet, but you're still just seeing one at a time. So that means somebody's on the nest, eh? So maybe by the week, hey, yeah, you bugger, you didn't phone me and tell me you were coming. I saw you go on and announce that you'd be here.
I just wanted to see if you were listening.
You're sleeping in the boat in the boathouse with the big spiders.
Wouldn't be the first time. But yeah, your event's going on this weekend. This is always well attended, and of course the kids and parents absolutely love this event, as kids always go home with something. It's and you've been doing this for how many years now, Jim?
I think it's 12 or 13. Well, ever since I've been here.
Wow.
Ever since I've been here, because when I moved here, there was a guy came to the door once, and I didn't know him. I've been here for like maybe six weeks, and he says, "Are you Big Jim?" I went, "Yep." And he goes, and I looked at him. Oh, I remember. I said to him, he said, "I got something for you." And when he said that, I said, "Yeah, okay, it's me." And he gives me this box, And he says, that's for the kids, cops and Canadian Tire fishing thing. He said, I figure you do fishing, so you'd need this. He said, I'm moving. See ya. And he just left.
Wow.
He had done it the first year that they had it.
Incredible. Oh, Brad is asking, Jim, any chance you've been working on his jigs?
Oh, sort of. Sort of. No, sort of. I have.
Sorry to put you on the spot. It looks like he's going to go work on them right now, Brad.
I made one to send them the pictures of, and I never took a picture and sent it to him.
There you go, Brad. Hot off the presses right here. I'm assuming Lakers.
Oh, I can't say.
Oh.
Giant bluegills, maybe.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
You have been busy tying them.
I made this up the other day. Got nice gum. Got 2 hooks in them. Had a bunch of them there, but I
got to ask, Jim, have you tied, like when it comes year to year to year to year, has this been one of your busiest years? Because based on the amount of content that I've seen you pushing out, this is definitely one of your.
It's all I do.
Wow.
It's literally all I do. I do all my computer stuff I have to do. You know, when I have to go away or do something, I go do it. Go to the doctor, go to the gym, whatever. Every other minute I'm back here till like 8:39 at night. I had a guy call me this morning. He says to me, "Big Jim." I said, "What's going on?" He says, "It's Brad." It's another Brad, and he says to me, "Can you make me some fluff?" He says, "I'm going to be by that way on the weekend. I'm going to Ottawa." So he said, "I know that you live somewhere off Highway 15." Or I said, "Yeah, Sealy's Bay." He said, "I know where that is. There's a." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Can you whip me up 100 by Sunday?" Wants 100 black 332nd ounce marabou. Like people, Scottie, people, they talk to me constantly about this, and like these things are not magic. You don't go down to the lake and just make a cast and the fish swim from the other side of the lake to get to it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you know where the fish are and you can't catch them, a lot of times if you can see them and you can't catch them, smallmouth or largemouth, they eat this. There's something about it in the water. I told you about my first experiences doing and trying to catch fish with the beautiful, most fancy little hand-poured drop shot baits and stuff, little weenie things, trying teeny little crappy tubes and stuff, and they'd give it a look and they wouldn't even touch it. You cast this 15 feet past them and you reel it in and they just turn and go and get it. There's just something about it,
And that's the thing too. The actual presentation and how you retrieve them. It's I don't want to say unique, but it's certainly unique to that style of bait.
Yeah, you basically any movement should be the rod tip going up and down.
Right.
Well, I see guys out there with these things. I get, they can't cast them for one thing because they have a medium heavy rod and it doesn't work on that. It's got to be light or, even maybe a medium light you can get away with if it's really long and you know what you're doing and got the right line and everything. Yeah. But there's just something to them that they eat them. I mean, it's. I used to make them for the Johnsons. They used to buy 100, 200 a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And 90% of them were black. They started saying the odd time, like I'm making some right now for Gord Roadcliffe.
Yeah.
Whom he called me this morning too. I've had 3 calls today, and there's what he's getting right there. Olive white is about 10 of each, and then the rest are all black.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, he said to me, "Can you get me a bunch done by Saturday when I was there?" I said, "Well, for you, I was lucky. I had a bunch done. I've been started just stockpiling as I go,
Yeah.
So I have a bunch done. I got enough almost to take care of that guy from. It's he's come from Hamilton actually to Ottawa.
Wow.
So I'll get him fixed up. But there's no end to it, buddy.
What a different year. Rocky just mentioned he's looking back at some of his Facebook memories. And have shared no less that 5 great sunburns fishing by this time of year. It's true. What we've been used to, what we've been spoiled with is certainly a reminder this year that, this is typical of what it should be. This is how I remember it anyway. Even as a kid, this is how I remember the summers. What we've had.
I'm seeing my memories come up on Facebook, and I'm saying, oh, this isn't right. I mean, I used to go down. I'd work, and we would be working on the paper. I'd work on the paper till 11 o'clock or something. I'd go have lunch. Then I'd grab a little eye prop, like a spy bait, the littlest ones, and I'd go down and I'd fish for crappies. It'd be all open water, and I'd catch a half a dozen crappies after lunch, and a bonus little largemouth or something, little largies like this get mixed in with them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd get a half a dozen tens. Some days I get 15 or 20, have a great afternoon for a couple hours, come back up, finish whatever I was doing work-wise, emails and stuff. And, right down there right now, it's frog water. And I don't have a sunburn on my left side from the sun, because it's always the way you sit. My left leg would be burned, peeled, and the right leg would be white. I mean, chair down there.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, no, it's amazing how different it's been. And yet, like I think I mentioned to you earlier, the guys, when we were talking earlier there, we watched the news at 6 o'clock eating dinner, Tammy and I, and they say Ottawa is only down third of a degree. I'm just mind boggled by that, because like I went out here this morning, it was 4 or 5 degrees first thing in the morning. It's supposed to be the same tomorrow morning, and then it warms up a little bit. And then
I don't know. I know you were out at Peters, and it was cold and it was windy. Yeah. I was helping my mom plant some flowers in the garden, and I remember a couple times looking at her. Are you sure these things are going to survive this cold? Like, are we planting these things for nothing? Because it was cold enough to snow.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
It's absolutely amazing. It's and if you look at the 14-day weather, there's nothing that big coming.
No. So to hear what you've said about that report, I'm surprised that it's only down that much, because it seems
that's what they said. They had the guy on from the weather for at the airport, and they were talking about it and whatever, and said it's only down like a third of a degree. And I thought to myself, geez, it's just, and it's not so much the lows at night haven't been too bad. It's been the daytime highs just haven't got there.
Yeah.
But we had a couple of days in the 20s about a month ago, and then today was 22 here. I think it got to. Tomorrow, the next day or two, is supposed to be 28 or something. But then right back in the garbage can again.
Yeah,
it's just a little side of heat, just to give us a taste.
It's exactly. We're a little bit off course here. I got a question to ask you. I saw this video that I'm going to share in a second, and basically, I don't necessarily want you to talk about the situation. I just want to know, has this ever happened to you?
Uh-oh.
Largest tournament organizations in the country, American Bass Anglers, ABA, they got top 150s, they got all these different tournaments. They're taking money from the anglers. All the checks are bouncing, not all of them, but about 90% of the checks are bouncing. They just had a military championship, and every check bounced. The guys that won on Guntersville first and second haven't been paid. They've been sent 2 different checks. Both of them have bounced. Told them they were going to wire their money. They're saying, well, we're waiting to get money from this city so that we can pay the payouts and pay the checks.
Now, I don't want to discuss this issue because this is alleged and I don't know the details. I don't know the whole story.
Yeah, he's famous for this stuff too.
My question to you is, have you ever won a tournament and not been paid?
I didn't get paid once for about 5 days. The guy called me up a long time ago. It was like second place. It was like $8,500. And he called me up and said, Big Jim, he says, I had a whole bunch of entry fee checks bounce.
Oh.
Hey, and the people don't, this happens, eh? This happens.
So this is what I wanted to ask. Like,
yes.
Is this something that has happened in the past? Because I don't, outside of that post, I've never really heard of
in
this.
In Canada, no. As a rule of thumb, I don't believe you've seen much of it happen. I know there's been a few little things where guys have absconded with the funds. Nothing on a major basis. I mean, like, that's not happening at BSS or FLW or something. That's not happening, eh? But the guy called me and he said to me, can I call you Wednesday or Thursday? And just, stay with me. He says, please don't talk about it. In fact, it's probably the first time I ever mentioned it, except to Tammy maybe. And he called me on Wednesday and he said, and this was a long time ago, called me on Wednesday and said to me, he said, I'm going in the morning to the bank. He says, I'm going to call you from the bank. And he called me from the bank. It was before cell phones. And he called me from the bank. He got them to let him use the phone. He called me and he said, hey, I just put $13,000 in. He says, so you can go ahead and take your check to the bank and cash it. And that was because he had a whole bunch of checks bounce.
And you think of it, like, I mean, it's not that hard to really conceive, as you mentioned, you know, when some entry fees, those checks bounce. Like, I mean, unfortunately, the organizers, what are they supposed to do? So yeah, again, I guess I'm proud to know that it doesn't happen on this side of the border as much as it does maybe on that side of the border. But
you got to remember too the number of tournaments on that side of the border. I mean, there's probably 1,000 tournaments every weekend.
Yeah.
In the U.S., you know what I'm saying?
True enough.
Well, there probably isn't 1,000 in Canada in a year.
I'd like to also to think that here in Canada, if a tournament didn't pay out its winners, I don't think they'd exist the following year.
No.
Yeah.
I say there's been a couple that have disappeared, smaller things.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a couple that have disappeared. You know, that's a little bit of money disappeared, not a lot. You know, nobody got beat for, you know.
There's Corey who's still waiting for his payout.
You can forget about that, Corey. If it was 12
years ago, yeah, she's done.
How much money was it, Corey?
I hope it wasn't a lot. Let's just say that. Let's hope it was a few $100. But needless to say, it's tough to be a part of something like that and get all excited, then find out that you're going to have to wait around for your actual payout. But again, I didn't want
one that was run out of Quebec, and the guy's wife took the money and absconded. Like, she left them, went and cleaned the bank account out because she used to do the banking. She took the money and ran off with the milkman or whatever it was. So fortunately he had some resources, but it just took him a day or two to get it all straightened out. Wow. Yeah. But it was a lot of money.
It happens.
Right at the first tournament of the year, everybody had paid their entry fees for the year. He had, I think, 70 teams. Yeah.
That's a good chunk of change, Corey.
1,200 US, that's like 4 million Canadian.
And 12 years ago? Holy,
I could have retired on that.
Be $100,000 now with interest.
Oh my God.
I know you've been working on the newspaper and getting ready for the kids event. Is there anything that you need for this at all, Jim, that I should be conscious to bring?
I need it not to rain.
That's true. Yeah.
It's looking like we might have a little bit of rain, but we got the Legion's going to do hamburgers and hot dogs for everybody after.
Okay.
So that's good. All the volunteers and everything.
And this,
and it's only like what? It's 100 yards to this.
Yeah. But this event, your derby, did it spawn out of Canoe Fest, or did Canoe Fest absorb it as part of the event?
That's a good. I don't know, because they, like I said, they had it the first year. See, it says here that the paddle thing is the 13th annual.
Yeah.
And it says the fishing thing is the 12th. And I didn't do it. I've done it for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was one before, I think, what it was. So they probably did the red canoe, then they did the kids thing one year, right. And then I got it. So yeah, probably, yeah. So it came out. I mean, the poker run thing's pretty, they do it, but they just don't get very many people. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot more advertising this year, though. I went and did things down in the TV station in Kingston, and I got the counselor here there shared the thing today into her page and the area and whatever, and I put it onto all the Big Rito page and over into Westport and places that are a 20-minute drive for people to come. So it isn't a big deal. So I hope we get more than we got last year. It was a little disappointing last year for me, but they had nothing. There was nothing done, eh? And that's what happens when you have organizations like that and people come and go.
Yeah.
And, I always had my part there. I mean, I didn't even go to one of the meetings this year. They called me and they said, hey, are you doing this? And I said, yeah, I got it all taken care of. Don't worry. it's done. It's in the bag. Everybody will be here. There'll be prizes. You guys just do whatever you normally do. And he said, so you need a couple of tables, couple of chairs. The lady that does the coffee beans here is going to bring coffee down for everybody in the morning.
So good. That is
Yeah,
probably the best
she's got
coffee I've
good
ever
coffee.
had.
Yeah, she's got good coffee. And
Well, looking forward to that as always, Jim. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing all the kids enjoy a great day, well, a great morning anyway, of fishing. And they're sent home with some prizes and a smile and some good memories.
yeah,
And
Constable Joey there's getting got his buddy at Canadian Tire to hook him up again. So our $500 goes a lot further.
Awesome.
And then I'm gonna drive over to Brockville probably on Wednesday or Thursday and pick it all up from him.
Cool.
Chuck it all in the truck, and then I'll just leave it in the truck, and we'll have it down there, and it's perfect. We had one thing left from last year that was nice, was the ping pong table. Nobody took it.
Interesting.
Remember we had that portable
Yes.
ping pong table and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna make that for first prize. That's what you get. I don't care.
Saves us from having to load it and unload
Too hard to store in the garage. It gets
Exactly.
the shape of it. Everything gets. But no, I went through a bunch of the stuff from the all the little boxes. You know, the way I let them pick a pack of hooks, a pack of whatever. I put all those boxes away last year into one big box, and I found the big box in the garage, and I laid them all out on the desks there at the front of the garage, and I went through and filled up the hooks, everything's got a bunch in again for them.
Cool.
So there'll be lots of stuff for them. Plus, then they get their prize at the end. And I think this year I'm going to make them sing or something for their prizes, or they don't get anything. And the kids come here and they say trick or treat, eh?
Yeah, it's true.
I say, well, I'm going to play a trick on you. And they look at you and say, well, you said trick or treat.
That's awesome. Well, looking forward to that, obviously, Jim, as I always do every year that I've been a part of it. But as I said, being this your 11th, 12th year, dude,
are you bringing a pickerel fisherman with you again?
I'm not sure. I have not talked to Steve about this, so I don't know.
You knew who I meant?
I did, even though you mentioned pickerel, I know exactly who you meant. I haven't had a chance to talk to Steve in regards to it, but we will certainly
Hopefully
chat.
He can make it.
Yeah, we'll chat after, and we'll see what we can do.
I saw his daughter made the rugby team.
I know.
Fancy rugby team,
buddy. I'm telling you,
she must be savage. You know what it is? It's the red hair, if I might say so.
Bang on. There is a video of Emma when she was in Hawaii, and I love this video. I will remember this video because it reminded me a lot of my days playing football. When you felt pain, you only felt it for a second, and then you needed to pass it on to somebody else. So you see her bent over and feeling the pain, and then she just gets up and absolutely laces somebody. And I'm like, wow, that brings back some memories.
Bob Mahoney told me good stories about Bridget playing
I can imagine
rugby in school. She's a fair-sized girl too.
She is.
And she's got the bright red hair, and she was savage, eh? She's in the Army now, so doing very, very well. She's won an award already and everything. So that's
I feel safer already, Jim, don't you?
Well, she's right down here in Kingston doing some training.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was funny on the weekend. I had my buddy up with his girlfriend, and we were talking about he'd been over in Latvia several times in the last few years doing weapons training and stuff, because that's what he does, eh?
Yep.
And we were talking about things, and I said, "Are you going back this year?" Whatever. He said, "Yeah." They sort of asked me to go to one thing, and he said, "I'm getting up there now, my seniority." And they wanted me to go in August. That's when I kill a smallmouth in the St. Lawrence and whatever. So he said I passed on it this year, so he's going to go much later. And I said to him, "Well, that's good for you, because don't you get a whole bunch of extra money and stuff like that?" And he says to me, he says, I got more money in Latvia last time than I got for spending 27 months getting shot at in Afghanistan. He blurted that out in the living room here on Saturday night, and I burst out. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, geez, thanks, Canadian government.
Wow. That is, it's funny, not funny, but wow. Holy smokes. Incredible stuff.
He was laughing.
I bet he was. Well, Jim, I look forward to seeing you on the weekend, my friend. You rest up, get ready, and if there's anything you need, make sure you let me know.
Just the last of my mosquito bites. Shouldn't have scratched it. Oh, I had
It's
some
not too
savage
cold for
ones.
them.
Oh my God. They came out that one night down there when Tammy told me she saw me getting in the truck running. I said I wasn't running. They were carrying me. I said I couldn't believe it. Wasn't a mosquito there. I'm catching all these little bluegills and pumpkin seeds and little crappies that were like 3 inches long. So they had to be from last year, right? And I'm down there just having a hoot. And all of a sudden it was like, you could just hear a hum. And it was glass calm. That's the night I saw all the turtles and beavers and otters and everything else, but it was pretty wild. Hey, speaking of that, somebody sent me a picture the other night. They had a fisher in their backyard.
No way.
Yeah, he was prowling around the backyard. He was mangy looking too and big. I think it was a really big old one.
Yeah.
Really, like their fur. Its fur was really, really thick. I took a second look at it in the picture. I thought to myself, could that be a wolverine? But it wasn't. But it was so. He said he sees them often, and he said I'd never. He sees families of them where he is, and he hadn't seen one for a while. And he said, I think this is the mom because she had a mark on her side, and I thought I saw a mark. But he said the fur. I've never seen one with fur this thick. It was like wasn't almost on it, So
unreal. Well, stay tuned to Jay's segment because we have something to share there on how you can remedy. It's a home remedy when it comes to warding off mosquitoes, bugs, and other pests, if you will. But
let me get my notepad out and I'm ready.
You take care, buddy. We'll see you this weekend, my friend.
If somehow I don't talk to you Friday afternoon, are you coming for dinner?
I'm going to try and make it for dinner. Yes.
Cool. Tammy, you have to cook.
You take care, pal.
Be good. Everybody be safe. Have a good weekend.
Amen. We got Lawrence Gunther coming up right after a word from our sponsor.
And there's a place that I've dreamed of where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream. You know what I mean.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
What's going on?
A wrestler, Lawrence? You've got a good stage name. Like if somebody was to introduce you, like even if you didn't have that little voice, you just have coming up there, Lawrence Gunther.
The Gunther, right? With the gun and the
absolutely.
Yeah.
Gunther. I love that. Perfect.
Yeah.
So obviously the newsletter came out last week. For whatever reason, it came up on my timeline today. I got a call at the same time as I was looking at it, and when I went back to try and find it again, I lost it and I couldn't find it. But now, just as a public service announcement for those people like me who are inept and aren't able to find where the Bluefish Canada newsletter is, help us out.
But go to the Bluefish Canada website and just register, sign on, put your email in there for the newsletter, and it'll get sent right to your inbox. Perfect. That's the best way. We're trying to set up an archive page, and I've got someone starting next week that's going to work on that. So we'll get that sorted out too. And I think that it deserves a better archive page than what we've been doing in the past. Just putting. Anyways, we're getting some web stuff done over the summer. So. Yeah, some needed refreshing.
Very cool stuff. Well, always look forward to it, and I know we're going to be discussing it as we move along here. But before we do, I wanted to share something because water quality is something that we talk about in your segment on a regular basis, and I wanted to share this. I forget. I think it's the Lake Simcoe report. Folks, I'm very sorry for not getting it right. If I am getting it wrong, my apologies, but something that I wanted to share that it's a first in Lake Simcoe is the water quality itself. Have a listen.
Lake Simcoe's monitoring team has reported a dramatic improvement in water clarity. Measurements of water clarity have hit a new all-time record at 23.4 meters. The likely cause? Hungry quagga mussels, which are actively filtering the water. A single quagga mussel can filter over a liter of water per day. It's been said that all of the water in Lake Simcoe is filtered by mussels every 5 days. Quagga mussels have largely replaced zebra mussels in Lake Simcoe. Quagga mussels have certain advantages over zebra mussels, such as a lower food requirement and the ability to survive in colder, deep water habitats. The negative impacts of quagga mussels: they outcompete native species, clog intake structures, and can alter food webs by removing plankton. Additionally, they can concentrate toxins and contribute to diseases like botulism. For more information, check out www.invadingspecies.com.
So we've talked about this, you and I, and how the quagga mussel is concerning because of the toxins that they concentrate within their bodies and their stomachs, the fatty tissue, what have you. But interesting to note that they've had this much of an effect on Lake Simcoe.
Well, yeah, like, we've seen it on the St. Lawrence River as well, right? The mussels, the water come down the St. Lawrence River, and all the zebra mussels and quagga mussels, it's making it possible where you can scuba dive down 100 feet and observe wrecks now. It's that clear down there at 100 feet. There's light getting down there. There's the water clarity is good enough to see the wrecks. So it's incredible. It's just incredible. That documentary that came out in January, All Too Clear, it brought down a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, and they rigged it up with some really high quality cameras, HD cameras, and they swam it down the bottom of all the Great Lakes, and it's nothing but quagga mussels down there. That's it. The whole lake. Shipwrecks are being just encrusted with quagga mussels, and they definitely push the zebra mussels out to the perimeters, right to the edges, right? So you see the zebra mussels along the edges. And they're the ones that are responsible. We're finding out now that for the they filter feed, but they don't take the phosphate out of the water, so that goes back. So that they release that in high concentrations along the shoreline, and that's where you're getting your big blue-green algae blooms right along the shoreline, right? Along our docks and shores and beaches and so on. So yeah, it's a work in progress figuring these things out and what it's causing, but clarity and sun penetration, light penetration for sure. That Secchi disc, right? It's like little dinner plate, more like a pie plate. They lower it down on a string, and when you can't see it anymore, they look on the string and identify the mark, and they're saying 26 meters. You can
26 and change. I know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy, and I'd love to see where it stands in relation to Lake Superior, which, believe it or not, from what I understand, and even Lake Huron for that matter, have been neck and neck when it comes to water clarity over the years. But if that's an awful long ways to be able to still see that Secchi disc. Incredible stuff.
Incredible.
Interesting. You mentioned, and you remember back, I don't know how many years ago it was when zebra mussels were first spoken about, and the hysteria that they caused. The fact that here we are this much time later and present time, and we're hoping for more zebra mussels than quagga. I can't believe that at this stage, so many years after their introduction, that we're wishing that there was more of them than the quagga mussel.
Yeah, because the zebras were along the shores in the warmer water, so they left the deeper water for the native species. That's not the case anymore, right? And these quagga mussels have taken over everything. But I'm just amazed. You hear about people's boat motors and the water intakes on the outboards and the inboards. They get encrusted with zebra mussels. The hulls get encrusted with mussels. But more and more people are keeping their boat in the water. It's just, I was just at some of the marinas on the Ottawa River here, and whereas the sailing clubs are diminishing, less and less people into sailing, but the yachts, the yacht slips are expanding like crazy. Mm-hmm. And those boats are in the water all season. Yeah. And to pull one of those boats out of the water, that's not cheap, right? To do anything, to pull a 40-foot boat out of the water, you're looking at $3,000 to take it out and do anything on it, just to have a look-see. But you got to get that thing out of there. And get those mussels off, and I don't know how they protect the water intakes from that. And, it gets right into the manifolds, water manifolds as well, and then you burn out your engine because it overheats.
Well, it's funny you say that, because they were showing a pipe that wasn't very big in diameter that was just chock full of quagga mussels. Richard is asking, does it affect the fishing? Well, this is the interesting part. Obviously, water clarity will affect fishing when it comes to the pressure and your presence, in their territory. My concern is the quagga mussels, because they are concentrating that much toxins that they create botulism. This would be horrible to find out, 5 years, 10 years from now, that, let's say, Lake Simcoe perch are no longer edible because of the possibility of botulism. Now, I know botulism is something that you can cook out of the meat, but there is that, are people going to do that? Are they going to be okay with that? Or are they just going to say, I'm not going to take the chance? Like, that's my concern, is if we get like a dozen people sick from botulism and it's directly related to fish that they've eaten from somewhere, that's my biggest concern.
Yeah. And listen to that podcast I released about 4 weeks ago with Christina from the River Institute, the St. Lawrence River Institute for Environmental Science. And she's been studying the relationship between gobies and their environment for years now. She's grown up on the St. Lawrence River, and it's her passion. She's got a doctorate degree now, and that's what she does. And gobies eat zebra mussels. They have little crunchers in their throat. They crunch them up, and then the mussel itself inside the shell is consumed, absorbed, digested. So these little critters, these little round gobies, are becoming bioaccumulators too of those toxins that the mussels are filtering out of the water. And look at all the game fish that are eating the gobies now, right? I mean, walleye and smallmouth bass, just to name two. Muskie, they know that they're getting the virus on the St. Lawrence River from the gobies as well. So yeah, there's the whole food chain and how that's changing. And for sure, any filter feeder, that's anything like zebra mussels that are pulling plankton and stuff out of the water system, that's undermining the base of the food chain. So it's a little scary. It's a little taste of what could come if the Asian carp get into the Great Lakes, right? Because they're filter feeders too, only they're much bigger.
Maybe by that time there won't be enough food for them to eat, and they'll just belly up. But I think something that was really important, if you listen to the video, was the fact that Lake Simcoe, they figure it takes 5 days for those quagga mussels to basically recycle that water.
The whole lake.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, one zebra mussel filters, I think, 1.5 liters of water a day.
Yeah. So,
you look at the bottom, a square meter, how many, must be 1,000 zebra mussels there. I don't know, but it's
incredible. And, again, these were the hysteria that they caused when they were first heard of, has certainly turned into a bit of a revelation, in the sense that they're doing a wonderful job cleaning our water. But as you mentioned with the quagga, they're not dissolving or absorbing phosphorus, so they're actually doing more harm than good.
They're taking out the good stuff and releasing the bad stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so that's problematic too. It used to be, that by concentrating it and the water's being warmer, the plankton grows faster, you got algae growing faster. So it's a big, everything's changing and fast, absolutely fast. But look, Great Lakes aren't the only ones concerned with quagga mussels and zebra mussels. Some of the news and the bluefish news that came out, British Columbia is training 27 of their conservation officers to do boat checks for boats coming into the province. They don't want to have zebra and quagga mussels brought into the province and introduced into their lakes. So they're doing boat inspection programs now, the conservation officers. So, that's getting pretty serious.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they're not the only ones. And you got Saskatchewan as well has a quagga mussel program and zebra mussel, safeguard program for boats, checking boats, and Alberta.
And I know you talked about in Saskatchewan, which again, I was sort of shocked to hear that would even be an issue that far inland, from the Great Lakes. But again, they managed to get into the Great Lakes, and who's to say? Because these mussels are saltwater bound, right? They're not freshwater bound. These are saltwater.
I think they come from the Baltic Sea or the Red Sea. Yeah. So they come from other freshwater bodies of water over on the other side of Europe.
Interesting. Corey's mentioning that in the Columbia River, sturgeon are feeding on the zebra mussels. Interesting to find out what the effects are on the sturgeon, if there are any.
Well, the common carp as well, right? And you can see it in the common carp. When they'll feed, but when they start running low on their normal food sources, they'll start pulling the zebra mussels off the rocks, and because they've got these really tough rubbery lips, they can rip them off, but they don't have crunchers, so they'll just swallow the zebra mussels whole. And then they'll let their stomach juices dissolve the inside, muscle within the shell. And that muscle comes out of the shell as a liquid, and then that's absorbed. And then they poop out the entire zebra mussel shell. And they've been feeding on zebra mussels because when you check their anus, it's swollen and red.
Well, this is the thing. Like, you see it with some of the walleye or any other spawning fish that spawn in rivers that have them in it. And they're usually cut up pretty good. Just because of how sharp they are, and anybody that's stepped on one, already.
So just swimming in the shallow waters, along on those rocky. Wow,
incredible stuff.
And that opens them up to infection, doesn't it?
Well, this is it, right? Because let's face it. Like, I mean, how many times are Great Lakes based on that time of year and the amount of toxins that are currently in the water? All of a sudden beaches get closed because of high levels of whatever. Yeah. And I'm going to say, if our fish are susceptible to that because they have open wounds, Lord only knows what that could possibly.
Death by 1,000 cuts, right? Tiny little micro cuts.
Pardon the pun. The pun.
Oh, yeah.
George brings up an interesting point about the Secchi depth information. It was what the human eye perceives.
Yeah.
You can basically double that Secchi depth to estimate the depth that aquatic plant growth can reach. Interesting.
Oh, so beyond what we can see, the plant can see even twice that in terms of their ability to pick up the light. That's pretty cool. I
love that we're learning each and every Monday. We do. Thanks for that, George. Really appreciate it. Obviously, you have a lot more other news items within the Bluefish news, Bluefish Canada news.
Yeah. So here's some information about another invasive species. Researchers have been monitoring lake trout sizes in Ontario, the lakes, not Lake Ontario, but many lakes in northern Ontario.
Okay.
And they're seeing that the average size of lake trout is getting smaller. Now, we would just assume that could be angling pressure, right? People keeping big ones, letting the small ones go. That was always the issue, and in many cases can still be the issue. But no, they're saying it's because of the rainbow smelt, that the invasive and rainbow smelt that's spreading through many of Lake Ontario, many of the lakes in Ontario, and I guess the smelt just isn't packed with the same sort of nutrient bomb as a Cisco. It's a leaner, faster growing minnow or whatever you call it.
And it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just not as nutritious as their normal food.
And the sheer size, obviously. I mean, it's a rainbow smelt is, it's got the same design as a pen, whereas a Cisco, it can look like a dinner plate if it gets big enough. So definitely far more fatty benefits in the Cisco, far more nutrients. And I do believe that our native char, grew up eating Cisco. So and that's probably why they were so darn big in the very beginning.
Yeah, and we're talking big fish that grow, for many, many, many years slowly, and the Cisco as well, right? It was a slower growing fish as well. Whereas the rainbow trout, I guess they're much faster growing and have a shorter lifespan. So it's we see this on in Atlanta in the Arctic as well. I remember when I was filming up there, on in Nunavut, they used to sell the Arctic char, was their number one best selling fish commercially, and they just started fishing it, and all of a sudden the prices started dropping because the Arctic char switched from eating the krill, the little tiny pink shrimp, to eating this minnow, that was migrating north as the waters warmed, and these minnows just never had the pink in it, and they never had, it wasn't as good a food quality either, so the fish were a little thinner, but because they had switched diet, the meat of the Arctic char was now gray.
Yeah,
and no one wanted to buy it. No one wanted to buy it. The market just tanked on that stuff. So they actually told the Inuit fishers that just started on this, they said, never mind, we're not even going to give out quotas for Arctic char anymore, because we can't find buyers for it. So we see this on the West Coast too. The minnows moving north, the different prey moving north, less protein or whatever it is, less fat as what the Chinook salmon and the coho and all the other salmon need to grow, super fast in 3 to 5 years. Yeah. They're just not getting that load anymore. So the fish just aren't getting as big and strong as they used to be.
It's funny you do bring up the lake trout though, especially in and around Lake Ontario.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, and Steve has helped me in a big way as well as Walt doing photo edits. Since we started this, I would say on average, the size of lake trout have gone down when we do photo edits from the ones that are being caught on Lake Ontario. It seems like there's more of them.
Yeah.
But definitely the size. Like we just did one for Daryl Doucette last week, and it was the first one I've seen with a Scottie size belly. But you don't see those much anymore. So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I completely agree. On average, I would completely agree.
Yeah.
Now, Steve's brought up here a good point. Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I see different species of aquatic plant growing due to sunlight penetration. I would have to say you're bang on, Steve. As water becomes clearer, that aquatic vegetation is able to grow deeper.
Yeah, it grows deeper, and then how does that affect the rotation of aquatic vegetation that takes place in a healthy lake, right? You'll see aquatic vegetation, a specific species growing in a certain bay, and 4 or 5 years later, and then it's gone, because each plant species has a preference in terms of the nutrients it pulls out of the soil or the lake bottom or the water, and then when it doesn't get that, it moves, it migrates, right? It just finds other places to grow, and where it was growing, something else takes its place. So you have these changes all the time happening anyways, where weeds, the weeds move around, but for sure you add in this new element of increased light penetration, and that's changed everything as well. And so how does that affect the small fish that need these weeds for habitat, and the other weeds that are taking their place? And what's going on with that? We see it's just on the St. Lawrence River, we see problems with the pike repopulation and muskie. It's just not happening as it should.
Oh no. And to get back to your point about the krill and the various salmon that eat it, whether it be sockeye or Arctic char, I would have to say it would be a very sad day to find out that people don't want to eat that meat anymore based on its color. We probably, if you've watched social media, you realize that we penetrate our meat with a lot of colors, like our regular meat.
Well, all the aquaculture fish are fed, food coloring, right, to get the pink into the meat.
That was the other thing I wanted to mention. We're already starting to do it from an aquacultural perspective. It'd be sad to know that we would, our preference would be to eat meat that looked more desirable than the natural catch.
Yeah. And then what? And we don't want to eat that, so we move on to something else.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's people pay a top dollar in these expensive restaurants. When you're paying $100 for a plate of food, And that's the case in some of these nicer restaurants that serve Arctic char. I know even here in Ottawa, $80 for a 2-pound, 2.5-pound Arctic char, and they recommend you to share it with somebody. Yeah, for $80, I'm sharing that plate for sure. I wouldn't buy it anyways, but that's the kind of prices they're charging, and yet it still doesn't have that pink meat, right? So
true enough.
Yeah.
I know you've got lots of other news articles that you want to share. We've got definitely the time to do it, so feel free.
Oh, here's something interesting. Microsoft has donated 2 years of high-end computer processing time and funding to NOAA. So they're going to use some artificial intelligence to document how water levels impact salmon migration. And they're going to use this technology to sort of try to figure this out, right? To look at all the information collected around water levels and light levels and clarity and so on, and salmon movement, and do some gather all this information, pump it into this high-end Microsoft computer over the next 2 years, and try to come up with some conclusions on what's happening.
It's interesting too, just to get off track a little bit. A lot of folks are thinking that AI is something that's new. It really isn't. If you think about weather forecasting, weather models is basically just a form of AI. And a lot of the weather forecasting that is done on a regular basis is from these models. That is basically AI, for lack of a better way of explaining it. So AI has been around for a little while. We're just starting to see it sort of on the grassroots level down to our level, and it's amazing to see where it is being infiltrated and used. It's also scary too, because at the end of the day, there is no end to where this is going to go. And what will be interesting to see is what AI is going to do to social media in the coming years.
Yeah, you got to be careful because it generates all sorts of bogus information, stuff that's just not true at all. You don't want to be just cut and pasting that stuff into reports, my friend. That could get you fired.
100%. You're still Lawrence Gunther, right?
I don't do the newsletter anymore. I just press this button. And the news is way more interesting.
No, absolutely. Well, that's interesting because I would like to say that we already know that it affects salmon, but to what extent it affects their migration, I think would be at the end of the day, those who are in charge of our water levels and making sure that there is enough water for a variety of reasons, not just for the fish. It's going to be interesting to see what the results are of that.
Well, I think for community science and for organizations that gather information about, fish numbers and water quality and water clarity and all that kind of basic data. And if we gather that, and, I've been to a bunch of conferences in the last 9 months where, organizations are saying, get us the information. We need to know what's going on out there. Mm-hmm. And they want to shove it into some giant databases that cost, millions of dollars. And anytime you see a project like that takes, more than 2 years and more than $200,000 and involves a database, that's never going to work out. It never has. It never does. Yeah. It's just you're building a giant house of cards. And I said to them right away, I said, look, instead of doing that, why don't you just get people to collect the information, store it on their websites, and then have one of these large language modeling artificial intelligence engines just go out and copy it all and teach the AI how to make sense of all that information so that it can start to put all 2 and 2 together and give us some real like you said, like weather, only it's what's going on in the water.
100%. And it's so true, because that's what we need. And unfortunately, data entry is a huge element of AI.
But AI doesn't need to have it all perfect. It just needs to know the information is correct, and then it can just grab it and use its own intelligence to make sense, to fit it all together. It doesn't have to be mapped out in a perfect formula like a database, right? That's, databases, you have to do the little search engines to pull anything out, and it has to go in just perfectly, otherwise it disappears. All that processes. those costly processes of creating the databases and the whole systems, you can skip all that. You can skip all that. So it's I think it's going to be quite exciting what it's going to come up with. I don't want it to do the analysis, but I want it to start to put the information together. If I want to say, hey, what's going on in this bay and what's changed over the last 5 years, and it start to give some really interesting graphs of things that are changing, and you can start to look at the things and understand what's going on. Right. That's going to be interesting. It's like looking at the weather in the past. How did the weather change? How is the weather changing? What does that mean? What's that mean for the future? If we start to project into the future a little bit, we've got some powerful tools coming towards us that we can use to head off problems in the Great Lakes and any lake if we start creating data. And that's a problem. Like I'm looking at the Federation of Ontario Cottagers Association. They've been collecting water samples from over 700 lakes in Ontario 4 times a year and submitting it for analysis for over 40 years now.
I didn't know they even did that.
Oh yeah, 40 years, over 600 lakes in Ontario, and they've got 40 years of data, quality data. And they just lost their funding. And the funding, all the data collection is done by cottagers. But someone's got to do the analysis, right? It's one thing to send in a bottle of water. Someone's got to test it. Well, the testing, the money for the testing never got pulled through after the last provincial election. It never got assigned. So this is a problem.
And how important is it now compared to 15 years ago? Like it's super important to know what's going on with our water. Oh, that's disappointing.
Oh yeah, it's disappointing for sure. 40 years of data collection, and it's going to come to an end. And it's the spring data, right? It's the ice out data, that first year data. That's what that's where everyone gets the first start. Okay, what happened? Where are we? Where are we this year? Because that baseline, everything's been frozen. So then the ice comes out. Boom! You take a water sample. That gives you a really good picture of the beginning. It's like starting fresh every year.
Yeah.
And then you see what's going on, and if there's a lot of activity on your lake, you might take 2 or 3 samples more over the season, but it's that first data collection in May and June that is the most important one.
Amen. Couldn't agree more. We got time for one more. Lawrence, go ahead.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say, Gord Heiser is he's retired, right? From Outdoor Canada magazine.
Now, I don't know, and I didn't know that was actually official.
Yeah, it's on the website. It's on the website.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah. 40 years. Wow. 40 years he's been contributing. I don't know if he's been the fishing editor for.
I knew.
4 decades. 4 decades he's been writing for Outdoor Canada magazine, and he's retired now.
I know he was stepping down from a lot of the things that he was involved with. He was still going to stick with his grandson Liam for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But, that's it. Well, what an era! I have to say, probably one of the most revered writers, icons in our fishing industry. Gord Heiser has been probably one of the most respected individuals that I know. Next, of course, Big Jim. But I would have to say, what he's done for fishing in Canada and Ontario, and even to inspire those who wanted to get into fisheries management or aquaculture. I mean, his passion, his positivity, his energy. If you've never met the man, you're missing out. He is truly a gem. And I think
he's 75. He had a 35-year career with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry as a biologist for the government of Ontario, 35 years, and 4 decades as the editor, as a writer, and a lot of that as the fishing editor for Outdoor Canada magazine. He's still doing the podcast. I think they're up to episode 31 with him and his nephew, and they have scientists on every 2 or 3 weeks. It comes out with another podcast. So Gord's a scientist who loves fishing, and he interviews other scientists who love fish and fishing. It's quite nerdy, but it's always interesting. It's good. It's good.
I could listen to that man talk for hours.
Yeah, me too. Me too. My kids walk by, Dad, what are you listening to? I said, oh, that's the doc, man. That's the doc.
Dr.
It's
Gord,
the doc talks fishing. That's the podcast.
Absolutely.
The doc.
I mean,
talks
I know
fishing.
Bob doesn't watch this podcast, so I can say this freely, but I will have to say Real Fishing went up a notch or two when Gord became a part of it.
Yeah.
What he brought to Real Fishing, I think, drew me in even deeper. I mean, Real Fishing was one of those shows that everybody watched back in the day.
Yeah.
When Gord Pizer became a part of it, holy smokes, man. I couldn't wait for his segment.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It just the what you learn about fish, right? And fish habitat and just how fish behave. And, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Really ups your game.
Now, likewise, yourself included, you have done, I mean, I look back at some of your podcasts, some of your libraries, some of your content, and you've been at this for a number of years as well. I dare ask, what have you got planned? If we got a status of the research center, where are we at with the research center?
That's a work in progress. I'm just talking to my carpentry team, and they're hard at work finishing up the outdoor kitchen. It's a 10 by 12 outdoor kitchen. The second accessible outhouse is finished, so they'll be delivering those 2 units in 2 weeks on location. So things are happening. That's good. That's always things are happening, and never fast enough. But you know what? I just take it one day at a time. Last Friday we launched for the first run ever the Bluefish Explorer on the Ottawa River. It's a Ranger Regatta 223F. So it's a 22-foot long tri-tune. So that's the 3. It's got 3 logs, and the F stands for fishing. So there's 4 fishing chairs in there, 1 in every corner, 2 live wells, a rod box, and we've got all sorts of great electronics going on that boat. That's the next thing. We're rigging it out with electronics. So the Bluefish Explorer is alive.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. A few things that are mentioned here in regards to some comments that we've spoken about. Really appreciate all of your comments about AI, Richard. And of course, George is correcting us. Gord was the district manager in Kenora, never a government scientist. And
okay.
Jim just mentioned that Liam will be replacing Gord as a contributor in Just Fishing. So his legacy continues through the eyes and ears.
Isn't that great? You can pass it on through the generations, eh? And it family obligation, man. The bar doesn't get any higher. You can't screw up. You got the whole family watching you.
Well, and you had to figure, like, somebody in his family, somebody in that family tree was going to carry the baton after he was done with it. And again, for no other reason, just his energy, his passion, his positivity. If you've ever met the man, you totally understand what I'm saying. He is, as I said, a remarkable individual, and our fishing community is pretty blessed and spoiled to have him for as long as we have.
And a wonderful person to talk to. He's just so, he's just loves talking to people, anybody, absolutely anybody. I know that because he'll talk to me. But you know what? You can walk up to the guy, and even if he doesn't know you, he has time for you, right?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
He's just amazing, just an amazing character.
Yeah, lucky to have him.
Yeah,
and we are lucky to have you, Lawrence, each and every Monday, and all of the work that you do outside of that and throughout the rest of the week. Thanks so much for your efforts. Thanks so much for your dedication to Bluefish Canada and Bluefish Radio. And as I said, if you are interested in receiving the Bluefish newsletter, please reach out to Lawrence or go to the website as we posted earlier and make sure you get yourself signed up so that you get this in your inbox each and every time it gets put together.
That's great, man. Sign up. And we're going to launch a few little prizes and giveaways over the next few months. So, get onto the loyalty program. You'll enjoy it. Yeah.
Will do, buddy.
Thanks,
you take care of yourself. Thanks again for your time, my friend.
Appreciate it, man.
We got Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Jay, I have to ask, George put in the comments, any truth to the fact that zebra mussels came out of the Berkeley lab?
I can't tell. Gordon. I can't tell. George could be right. You know, George knows a lot. So I'm not gonna question his, but it's possible.
I almost busted out laughing when I saw that during Lawrence's segment. I'm like, oh, only George could say that. Well, Jay, it looks like you're on the road again.
Yeah, on the road again, just doing lots of seining and looking for fish and sampling like I always do.
Well, you're always a busybody. I'll tell you, yeah. I did come up with something. I know we've talked about losing our phone during ice fishing adventures, journeys, what have you. I think we've all had to deal with that. Yeah. I just wanted you to know I have looked far and wide for a solution. And Jay, I want you to spread this around. I have found something that I think will be able to retrieve every single cell phone that has ever been lost over the years. Have a look at this.
Are walking on the ocean floor without even getting their feet wet. How? Thanks to the diving bell. It works like an upside down cup. A compressor pumps air into the chamber, and as it sinks, the high air pressure pushes the water out. Once it reaches the seafloor, a team can enter the chamber and work for up to 3 hours. Thanks to the diving bell ship, they were able to recover a massive ship anchor worth $6,800.
You know, $6,800 for the cost of that diving bell, because I kind of know a thing or two about what it costs to procure such technology. I would just let that thing lay on the bottom.
Amen, brother.
But,
Amen.
Although I do know a couple of ice anglers, Jeff Penner, who would have loved to have had that diving bell. It reminds me too of dude, I'm going to date myself, but there used to be it wasn't a cartoon. It was a kid's show called Hammy Hamster.
Yes.
And Hammy Hamster lived on the riverbank, and there was his buddy, the rat, the guinea pig, and Hammy Hamster. And guinea pig had a diving bell, and he would go to the bottom of the river to do like research. So I kind of live through Hammy Hamster still sometimes.
It's so funny you say that. And I would love, if anybody has the guts to do it, a show of I watched Hammy Hamster strictly because it was the only kid show that involved boats, water, diving. It would have fish. There would be segments about fish in there too. I became a fan of Hammy Hamster strictly because he was on the water.
Dude, the guinea pig had all the gadgets, eh? He was the gadget guy. You wanted to be. We were all Hammy Hamster, but you wanted to hang out with guinea pig. That was the thing. Yeah.
Now, I won't say I do remember a certain time in high school where we put that show on, and we may have been indulging in a thing or two. And I'll tell you, it's something that if you ever get a chance to go back, you know, if you've had a few wobbly pops or enjoyed whatever it is that you enjoy in your own time, have a watch of Hammy Hamster. You'll be on the floor busting a gut. Some of the stuff that was shared, it was actually funny as heck. But
I agree. It was dude. I don't even know. I'm dating myself, but I can't remember when that was. But it was a long time ago.
It was a long time. Steve, we have another one that has the cojones to admit it.
Yeah. Nice.
I love that. I absolutely that and the Littlest Hobo. Those two things and Beachcombers.
Beachcombers. Yeah.
Love
Relic. That's right.
100%. Who didn't want Relic's boat, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, and I still drive a boat. Like Relic did. Like I learned a lot of my nautical ways from watching Relic. And if anyone's worked with me on a John boat, you'll know how I learned how to drive a boat was from Relic. That's for sure.
That is so freaking funny. Well, I mean, just going on with Comedy Hour, there was something that Jim had mentioned in his segment about getting eaten alive or carried away from the mosquitoes. I have to say, is this fact or fiction? I want to share a video that I had the pleasure of looking at that I'm not sure if this could possibly work. But if you're looking to ward off any kind of invasive bugs that you just are annoyance to you, this is a home remedy. And I'd love to see folks weigh in on whether you agree if it's going to work.
I know. What's that idiot doing still wearing a dragonfly on his hat? Well, Everyone's wondering whether it works, whether it keeps the bugs away. Said I didn't know. I said I'd try it. Again, bugs were out earlier. Now they're gone. So does it work? People in the comments in the last video, many of them swore by it. Dragonflies are carnivorous insects and excellent hunters. I did some research. Dragonflies eat mosquitoes, flies, gnats, midges, bees, young horseflies, mayflies, and wasps. These come in a 3-pack. I keep one on my hat. I keep one on my pack. My son wears one.
No, I don't look at this.
Look at my son wearing one. He's the one that told me about them in the first place. He said, get these things. They're awesome.
Dude, what do you think, Jake?
Well, I have to admit, so when we go out to the cottage or whatever, deer flies are like number one enemy. Okay. And not black flies, not mosquitoes, but deer flies. And I spend so much time fishing for largemouth in the summer. If anyone has spent time in a marsh fishing for largemouth, and I do work in a marsh too, deer flies are the worst. And they always get me like around my feet. Like I wear keen sandals a lot in the summer, those like outdoor sandals, and they bite you right in the little holes like between your toes. They are little effers. But I've also, the girls like Stephanie and Heather get chased by deer flies all the time. And I've literally thought about buying them. I've almost I've almost done that. I'm just paying for it. I've almost but I keep backing out. I've thought about buying the girls those same dragonfly clip-on hat things because I hate deer flies. We all do. Right? Like they are awful. True story about deer flies. Many years ago, I took a buddy to fish. We were fishing Goose Bay on Sturgeon Lake, the South End Sturgeon, and we were going to go frog fishing. It was after work one night, and I always kept a can of bug spray in my boat. And I would just spray like from the knees down because the deer flies bite the ankles. I don't know what it is about ankles, but they love the feet. So I took my can of bug spray and I sprayed before we left the dock. I sprayed from the knees down on both legs. And my buddy was like, "Oh, you got to wear that perfume, Barnucz. You got to wear that fancy perfume." And I'm like, "Dude, if you want it." And I remember setting it down in the middle of the boat. So I'm up on the front deck and we're frog fishing. And within 30 minutes, I could hear the muskol being sprayed in the back of the boat because he had blood like running down his ankles from the deer flies. They were so bad, but the fishing was so good. Like that's one of the few times I don't like wearing bug spray. I will put up with bugs until the bitter end, but deer flies are my nemesis. And I've really heard those dragonflies work against the deer flies. So I've thought about it.
I have to say, when I looked at it, obviously it's something that they have to market and promote, and they did a fantastic job. But I would be interested if anybody has the wherewithal to purchase a 3-pack.
Yeah.
I'd love to know. I'd love to hear your feedback if it actually works. Again,
look at the hammy hamster comments. George even knows about the hammy hamster.
I didn't realize it went back to the 60s.
Oh, well, that's so. And you know what? So when I look at my kids today, and they got to study like Cratch creatures and stuff. Now I watched like Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom and stuff. I watched all those shows. But I'm telling you, man, Hammy Hamster, I loved that show, and I think it played a big role in what I do today. I'm not even joking.
I have to agree. I completely agree. In fact, I would love to be able to tell the producers, if they're even around, that you had a huge influence in my love of boats, my love of water, strictly because of your show, and it blossomed into, as I said, the Beachcombers and everything after that.
I have a buddy of mine who's an M&R research scientist, and we work together occasionally. We've been good friends. He was in my wedding, and we've been good buddies for 25 years. And we make Hammy Hamster comments once in a while, and people just like, most people that are with us are much younger than us, and they just look at us like, what? And we start to explain what Hammy Hamster is, and the looks we get is just like over the like, they're what's wrong with you two? But man, we just start giggling about Hammy Hamster.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Too funny. So we talked a little bit about, before we went live, the weather that was the horrible hand of weather that we got dealt this past weekend. We talked about the Long Point Pike Derby that went on. Chandos had their derby this weekend, and I would say by the number of folks that were involved, it might have had a lot to do with what they were dealing with. I want to congratulate Mike Nobolsi for winning the tournament. As I said, congratulations to all those. And he took home $32.50, which, between him and his partner, that's not a bad haul. But look at the size of some of these pike that were caught.
Yeah, huge pike. I saw those standings. I was like, Chandos it's a real, I'm not gonna say a sleeper pike fishery because I know guys go there, but it doesn't get a ton of pressure. And I don't think there's a ton of pike in there, but the ones that are there are big. And I knew about the event. I wanted to see the results because I knew you'd get some diehard pike anglers like Mike. And yeah, I'm not surprised, but it's great to see, man. Just some huge pike.
Incredible. So again, congratulations to all who participated and those who took home some hardware and some much needed cash for sticking it out, strictly for sticking it out, because that would have been ugly. As I said, I was planting flowers with my mother. I can't imagine what it was like to be out on the water. And were you out on the water, Jay?
Yeah, I'm sharing a picture actually. It's a picture I took on the weekend. So in this image here, you can actually see the honeycomb beds of the bluegills.
Holy smokes, yeah.
So in the reservoir where we're fishing, this reservoir is deep. The average depth is around 20 feet. But in the shallow areas right now, those are bluegill beds. Now, because it's soft sand, there's often bluegill beds, and not occupied bluegill beds, but you'll see bluegill beds all season. Like they nest in the same areas year after year. And so sometimes the nests, when they're done spawning, the nests just stay because there's not a lot of flow in this reservoir. So the sand just kind of stays. But you can see in the back, you can see my line in that picture actually. And you can see my float up under the shade. And I'll tell you, like, the bluegills are hanging around the nests, but they're not spawning yet. It was only 58 or 15 Celsius roughly. Like, we just haven't had any warmth, and I don't think the bluegills are spawning yet, but they're trying, like they're thinking about it. Yeah. There's no bass on beds yet. Dude, it's June 1st. Like when I was out there on Sunday, June 1st, I wore a base layer, like under the rain suit. Like I woke up and it was 2 degrees out. I'm like, good Lord. Like, and now we were lucky, Trevor and his buddy Aiden and I, we went out there and it was cool, but it was not windy. It didn't start windy. And then it got the wind, but by noon, the wind was howling, like out of the northwest at like 40K gusting to 60. I'm glad we were on a small lake, to be honest. And the fishing was phenomenal, dude. We caught so many, Trevor's working on a YouTube video. We caught so many 9-inch plus bluegills. We couldn't hit 10 inches though. That was kind of the goal. And a lot of them, we were sight fishing in this clear water where you could see them up under the shade line. And just using the same setup we were last week with just a float. And it was awesome. But when I met the boys down lake about 11 o'clock, and I could see, now Aiden he has a kayak, but it's a paddle kayak. It's a nice one, a Jackson Coosa. And but he was done paddling. Like Trevor was done too. So we packed it in early. Believe it or not, I couldn't believe it. When it was 11 o'clock, I said, boys, you done? They're like, we're done. Now we started at 6:30. So it was pretty long day, but yeah, I can't believe how behind we are. In that video you showed last week of Steve Cook talking about some of the hardships we're in. Now, Jim, we were talking pre-show about, we've had some great warm springs and we've had some great recruitment from bass. And so, it's all cyclical. These things happen. And so in Ontario, we deal with these things because we rely on natural recruitment for our fisheries. And so it's a little depressing, but I think things are in good shape. We're going to have a bad year once in a while, and it's shaping up to be a bit of an off year. Now, I don't know what the water temps were 2 weeks ago when we had that really warm weather before I went up to Nipissing. So that was the week before the long weekend. So I guess that was just 2 weeks ago. So I don't know how warm it got. So I don't know if those beds are abandoned or they just weren't even used yet, but it's obvious that the fish are I'm sure they'll try and spawn. What will happen, just so everyone realizes, the biggest bottleneck for fish is after they spawn is how big they get. This is one of the biggest bottlenecks, how big those young fish get by the end of the growing season, and then how those fish survive that first winter. That's such an important part in fish biology. And I think that, when you have a shorter growing season, so the fish will spawn, but those young fish don't have as long to grow. And so now they could fatten up. We could have a very productive summer and those fish could do well, but it's really important to get those young fish a long growing season. If they don't get that, you won't lose an entire population, but it definitely will have an impact long term. But we've had such good recruitment the last few years; it's probably not going to have a big deal. So.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Jay. And I have to say, I was up at my favorite place this weekend, and I was very happy to see loads and clouds of walleye fry. But again, we're a good week and a half behind.
Yeah.
So to your point,
even the walleye, like their timing was more or less on time this year.
Yeah.
But we need that warm weather. We need those heat units. We need to get the water warmed up so they start to grow and feed. We need that for all the fish. And so we're just seeing a bit of an off year. George's comment's true. Bass opener is going to be good this year, because now I'm not going to say I'm going to go target beds all the time, but there's going to be fish in all phases of the spawn.
Yeah.
Pre-spawn, potentially spawning for sure, and post-spawn. We're only 3 weeks away from bass opener for many of the zones. And even in all the zones will be open in 4 weeks. And that's not a long period of time, even if bass starts spawning tomorrow. Now, I expect this week temperatures will take a jump.
Oof.
And I'm tempted to go back out to that reservoir next week, this coming weekend, again, just to actually see how this week of warm weather heats things up. I was actually pretty impressed. I want to see how long it takes. Does that make sense, Scottie? Like how fast it happens? So
my son, who is very conscious to make sure he follows the rules, reached out to me because he's going to be away camping on bass opener, and he was asking me. I'm not sure are you familiar with Poker Lake, the Poker Lake system?
Yeah.
So he's heading out there, and he just said, what are some of the things that I should bring? And I said, well, first and foremost, I know how conscious you are. Are you going to be okay targeting bass on their beds? And he's like, what do you mean? It's opener. I said, yeah, but we're unfortunately a little bit behind when it comes to the bass. So are you still okay catching bass on beds? I don't know. Is it illegal? Well, it's not illegal. It's an ethical thing. At the end of the day, it's what you want to do. If you don't want to fish them on the beds, then I'm going to suggest going after the splake, because there's lots of splake in that system up there. So it's cool though to hear it, from your youngins, those that you're bringing up, that they're actually, hey, you've been listening all these years. Good for you, kid.
No, that dude, that's awesome. That people are aware of it. Like, it's going to happen. Our fisheries can sustain it. Like, I think as long as people release fish, we can't stop it. It is an ethical choice. It's kind of like, fishing for like migrating salmonids, right? Like you can make a choice of, do you fish for them or not when they're all piled into one hole? Like, I don't know, like I used to do that, but I'm not a big fan of it. But I understand people do enjoy it. So it's their privilege, it's their right, but it's maybe not the right thing to do. So
100%.
I'm sharing another picture, Scottie. I want to talk about this picture. So a really cool thing happened this weekend, and I'm going to use this picture to tell the story. This weekend was the Bassmaster Kayak Open on Lake Tenkiller. This picture was at Lake Tenkiller last March when Owen was fishing the Bassmaster National. And, this story, that's Christine Fisher. Now, Christine Fisher is like, dude, I'm getting kind of teary right now. Like, that woman, she is an amazing ambassador for this sport. I don't care what gender. She's awesome. And this personal experience was when so the way the Nationals worked is when Trevor and Owen would go out together, and they would basically, Trevor and Owen would fish together. Well, Trevor couldn't fish, actually. He would hang out with Owen to make sure he was safe. And then I would pick them up. And so I was kind of the shore crew, the pit crew. And that particular day, we pulled up at this boat ramp. You see the bass boats in the background.
Yeah.
And there was a huge bass tournament on that day. This was one of the pre-fishing days for the Nationals. And I could hear Christine Fisher talking to a friend because her voice is so distinctive. But I was busy getting the boys out. And we pulled up, and I said to the boys, I said, hey, I just saw Christine Fisher pull in. And as soon as I said it, we were parked and we were strapping the kayaks down. And she comes jogging over, and she's like, hey, where are y'all from? She saw the kayaks. She was there kayak fishing. She came over. She introduced herself to Owen and Trevor and I. And she was in the Nationals fishing against Owen. Now, Owen couldn't fish. Like, you can't share information in these events. Christine said, hey, you need any help, let me know. And she was just so gracious and just so kind and like unexpected, right? Well, let's fast forward to this weekend, and I'm going to share this picture. And this is just so motivating for so many people. So Christine won the Bassmaster Open on Lake Tenkiller. And the fact that she won, and look at this quote, it's my biggest dream that every single other woman out there can see and believe that they can do this. Like, that is awesome. And I do believe 100% that she made that statement because she is such a great ambassador for the sport. She's such a great ambassador for women angling. And I'm so proud of her for winning this event. And I know I don't know her and she doesn't know me, but man, this is just such an awesome accomplishment to fish. These are some of the best kayak anglers in the world, literally, and she is one of them. And I can't wait to hear how she did it and the interviews that will come out of it. Just awesome. It's honestly made my whole weekend.
I will say this: I am so glad you remembered this, because as soon as I went live and I was looking at the bottom, I'm like, I forgot that picture. Thank you. So you were totally on the same wavelength. I knew you wanted to talk about it, so I uploaded the picture. I just didn't upload it to here. So thank you so much for doing that. You actually did a better job because you got that quote in, which I had seen later and after the fact. But yeah, I mean, she's someone that I've definitely followed over the years, being in the industry, and I've watched her grow like you have and others. It sort of started, I think, more of as a clickbait kind of thing in the very beginning, because she was being shared on many reels by many very people, and it almost got to a point. I have to say this, Jay, almost got to a point where, is she even real? Like, is this a real person? Because you just see her over and over and over again in so many different situations and in different applications, presentations, however you want to describe it. But I'll tell you this: after you met her and spoke to her and told us that story of your experience down there, and I have followed her more in depth since. I have to 100% agree. There's quite a few, but there is no better ambassador from a woman's perspective when it comes to kayak fishing in the States or maybe across the world than Christine Fisher. So.
Well, now in this year, she has a sponsorship with Ranger. She's fishing the Opens this year. She has touched so many people. Like, I can't tell you how many random kayak anglers I've met in Ontario, and just other anglers actually. Like, she has a friend of mine, Jeff Beecham, who's in our club now. I've known Jeff a long time. When we were out fishing 2 weeks ago, I hadn't seen Jeff forever, and it was great. Sometimes on the water, like, we're both in kayaks, and we just spent half the day catching up. I haven't talked to Jeff in a long time. And I mentioned, I go, hey man, like, you got this really nice kayak trailer. His trailer is beautiful. I don't know how I can be so excited about a trailer, but I get excited about this stuff. And his kayak trailer, it's from Tennessee. There's this company that makes these beautiful kayak trailers. He goes, oh, I bought it off Christine. I saw her trailer at an event, and I bought it off her, and he told me how it all worked out. I'm like, that is so awesome. And she was so gracious about it and offered, like, to meet him, to pick it up and all this stuff. And then I talked to Alicia Retrowski. Alicia talks to Christine online once in a while. Like, all these people that we all know each other because we're in the industry, but we're not all, like, super close. Yep. She has touched so many of my friends, let alone, I know she's like that with others. Like, after every event, she calls her grandfather. His name is Pa. And I love hearing their conversations. Like, dude, it touches all the right things. Does that make sense? Like, it's just so good. And if people
that's maybe why in the beginning I thought she's not real. There's no way this could be a real person. Like, this is just some AI fabricated, edited video. There's no way this person could possibly. But when she caught that really big fish, and I think that was the one video that I really got drawn in as a fan. She caught that really big bass, and it just how she it was so raw. Her emotion, her excitement. I tell you, it was addictive, and that video was what drew me into her. And you met her. We've had the pleasure, all of us, to follow her online, like a couple of our viewers have said. And I'll tell you, she's something. I'll tell you, fantastic.
Yeah, and like, even she just touches people. Like, even one thing I'll give my wife Heather credit for is that she she really finds the good in people, like she truly always has. Like I always say that Heather's always made me a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And just I know the way Christine, like we met her at the Classic that year, and even Heather was just like, this woman's just like incredible. Like just the love of fishing, the love of life, like she's all of it. And everyone should follow her. If you love fishing in the outdoors, you should follow Christine Fisher. So shout out to Christine. I know I'm pumping our tires pretty big right now, but congratulations. That is a huge win. Like that is like on the kayak side, the wins don't get any bigger than that. And I know the kayak fishing is kind of a new thing, but these guys and girls are good, and she beat them. And so congrats to her. Not only is she a great human, man, she can catch fish. She's proven it time and time again. So congrats to her for sure.
Awesome stuff. To move on to actual clickbait, or perhaps maybe it's not. I wanted to show you this video for no other reason than it's very well done, but I have to admit, I don't know if I see any value in this myself, but that's just my opinion. I want to hear what you folks have to say.
World's first lure tracker. A true gem of technology that attaches directly to your fishing line, compatible with any lure. Discover a new dimension of fishing and gain incomparable insight into your lure's journey underwater and water temperature at each depth, all in a 7-gram hydro stealth body that won't affect your lure's presentation. Instant upload upon arrival. Logs every cast, allowing you to adjust on the spot or improve your catch rate on your next adventure. Get probe and get depth knowledge.
Isn't that cool? Like honestly,
it's different. That's 100%. It's totally different. Do you see a value in that, Jay? Would it be something that you would use?
Yeah, I would. Like, so here's the thing about we do with fishing. And I always talk about this at work. So I often get in conversations with other professionals like biologists, but like in the bird world or in the tree world or the plant world, like terrestrial realm, right? And I always joke about they have it so easy because they can see everything. Like we can send a drone up and we can like look for moose, and we can like even like for birders, like a buddy of mine once. He's like, how come we don't know more about this fish or that fish? And I'm like, we can talk about birds like this. I'm going to get real nerdy for you for a second. So this conversation was 20 years ago with this guy named Michael Bradstreet. Now, Michael Bradstreet was the chair of the Long Point Bird Observatory at the time. And his wife worked with my mom at the local hospital. So I used to volunteer and do bird banding when I was in high school. So anyways, that's how nerdy I am, right? Like it started at a young age. Back like just between Hammy Hamster and like Eastern Sander, I was banding birds. So anyway, so Michael Bradstreet and I was showing Michael how we collect fish with a seine net in Long Point Bay. He was out with us and he goes, well, why don't we know more about these fish? I go, Mike, we just can't stick our face in the water. Like you're a birder. Like you want to learn about prothonotary warblers, and they're an endangered bird that lives around Long Point. They live in hollowed out tree cavities and you can hear them. Like you don't even need to see them. You can hear their call. We don't get that with fish. Like we spend our entire life raccooning around in an element that we can't see. Now there are some places we can see like marine systems, but most of our freshwater systems, well, except for Lake Simcoe now apparently, but a lot of them are the clarity is so poor. We just can't go underwater. We don't breathe air. We don't breathe underwater either. We need air to breathe, right? So all of this is work. Now this technology comes out where, maybe we can actually see how fish are reacting to our baits. We've talked about this with forward-facing sonar. It's not so much a tool for catching fish. It's more a tool to learn about fish, learn how they respond to things. And I think that I'm not going to run out and buy this because it doesn't really fit my needs, but I could see like the trolling guys out there. Like I know they have, what's the lure camera that trollers commonly use?
Well, there's fish cam. There's Canfish.
Yeah.
There's a new one out too. Maybe it is canned fish. That's the new one.
So those are more robust units, right? Like this one's pretty small. Like I could actually see a fish breaking me off and like losing this thing. But, you know, I could see fixing this. This is kind of a poor man's version of that, right? So I could see mounting this onto something, maybe not even your line, but maybe on your downrigger or something like that, to actually understand how fish behave and how they relate to the lure and how you're presenting it. I think that this is where technology is going. And I think that, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's cool. And I think that if we want to become better anglers, we need to understand how fish relate to their environment more and how they respond to our presentations better. And this is one way of doing that. And this one kind of reminds me of, what was the one, the fish finder deeper. So if you're shore base, you can cast out the float. Garmin makes a similar one. You cast it out and you can see the depth where you're going to fish. This kind of reminds me of that. For those anglers who are shore based or in a smaller boat without all their gadgets, they can use this to actually see what's happening in the subsurface environment. I think it's cool.
Now, you want to see how much of an influence you are. This is how much of an influence you are. So this was the comment before you went on your rant, and a very valued rant, I might add. You have completely changed someone's, and I have to say, myself included, because right away when you started talking about it, I'm like, you know what? You could fix this to a downrigger, and it would probably give you valued information that is a lot cheaper to obtain than some of the more sophisticated fish hawks and all those other systems that they have currently right now.
Yeah, like it's not so much about catching fish. I always think about this as like every time I go fishing, I'm learning, man. Like if I stop learning when I'm fishing, then I don't want to do it anymore. Like it's always about finding out something new. Of course, I love catching fish, but it's always finding about something new. Like even this past weekend, just like studying those bluegills and what they're up to, and like spending time like observing them, and of course catching them, and like figuring out what are they relating to, what's going on, and why isn't the cabbage up yet the way it should be, like all these things. And of course I'm overthinking half this stuff, Scottie, because that's what we anglers do. We overthink things sometimes, but it's about learning. And I think it's another learning tool. It may not be for everyone, but I think it's a cool tool. And the fact that we can make technology like that now, it's now I'm going to tell people, and I've learned this from work a lot, water clarity is your enemy with that kind of technology. You need really clear water for that temperature for sure. But to see those fish, it's amazing. Even the clearest, what you think is super clear, is not that clear on a camera. It just doesn't show up that well, especially if you played around with ice fishing cameras. Like unless you're fishing something like Lake Simcoe, like good luck taking a camera to like the Grand River or something like that. It's not for everywhere.
That's
but
right.
It is a great tool to learn, and that's what it's about. Is becoming you become a better angler when you start to teach yourself more information. Does that make sense?
Great point. No, it's a fabulous point. In fact, I hope everybody heard that, because it is so true. And I learned something today when I was presenting this to Jim. Jay, have you ever seen a red ear sunfish this size? Like this thing's monstrous.
So
I that big.
I've seen some big red ears come out of Havasu. Like, I don't know the weight of it, but so that one's obviously held up pretty far. And I always laugh because when we hold up bluegills for the camera, I always tell like anyone, I'm like, just hold it out. Just hold it out. Because it's like, if I hold it right here, it's like, you don't even see it, because there are awesome fish. But I've heard, and I don't want to misquote it, but I think I've heard of like, 4-pound red ears coming out of Lake Havasu. And it's notorious for catching these giant, and they're the same family as bluegill. They're centrarchid. They're of the same Lepomis genus, but something about those southern desert reservoirs like Havasu and others, that they grow them huge. I don't understand what is unique there. Now, red ears do get bigger, but even where I've caught them in the US, where I've done some work, I've never seen them like big like that, but they do get big, and those are huge. And what an awesome fish. But that picture to me is funny because I know I can see how small the guy's head is.
Yeah,
so he's doing this
100%.
But I don't care. Like there was a photo once on it was an ice fishing photo of Matthew Sava. What is he makes like steelhead baits. Yeah, kitefish.
Yeah.
So Matt caught this burbot, and he held the burbot out like this, right? And it's beautiful. And people were roasting him for holding it out so far. And I went on, I'm like, dude, you show off that big, beautiful burbot, baby. Like it was, I'm like burbot are so cool for one. And I'm like, dude, you hold it. And it was an awesome picture. But you know how people are, yeah.
It also helps. He's half our size. It also helps that he's half our size.
Yeah, it's true. He is literally half my size. So the burbot looks twice as big. But I told him, I said, dude, you hold that fish out. Like I always tell you, when you're doing fish pictures, you don't have to do like that guy all the time, but hold it out, man. Make it look big. Like show that fish off. If it's a nice catch, show it off. No one's gonna. They just don't start saying, "Here's my 3-pounder." Never put a weight in your caption, but show it off. Show that fish off. It's worth it every time.
You know, it's actually something that maybe now that you mentioned this, that we might spend some time on one of our segments, the how-tos and the do's and don'ts of posting pics on social media. You and I have seen a cavalcade of errors, and a lot of it is just due to excitement. We see it all the time during the fish off. You know, folks are criticized about how they handle fish, and I keep having to remind people, well, think of the excitement. Think of that being your personal best. There is an adrenaline feature that you're not taking into account, that, you know, unfortunately a lot of this stuff just gets missed through excitement. And it's a human factor that unfortunately we all have to warm up to, but some folks are definitely a lot more.
And you know, little things like don't show your background. Like you can show a background, but like be discreet about it. Like, and I've learned those lessons myself. And I'll use an example now. Trevor's learning those lessons. Like he'll post pictures where it's obvious where he is, and then he gets criticized for it. And I'm like, dude, you could have turned a little to the left and use that tree as your background, and no one's going to know the better where it is. Or they might guess, but they'd have to guess well, you know, like, you know, and show that fish in the water or in a net or something, like just little, or it, you know, dude, we all drop fish. I drop fish all day today, measuring them like little tiny fish on a scale and a board. Like I drop fish all day long. I hate it. But what do? I pick it up and I wash it off. Like I take care of it. So if you drop a pike in the mud on the riverbank, and you're trying to get that picture for CFN, stick the fish in the net for a second, swish the net around a little bit, pick it up again. Like just take little things so that people don't, we shouldn't have to care what people think, but at the same time, it's also good for the fish. Like if you're going to take the time to do a picture, wash the dirt off it, like let it rest in the net, do these little things, right?
Public service announcement right there, Jay. I can't thank you enough for that. That is so apropos.
Hey, I have to give a shout out. One last comment that came in there from Mark. Mark, watching from Texas. I saw the post. Sorry to hear about Pete's truck. That sucks. Just so everyone knows, so Mark Garnier and Pete Garnier and their daughter Elise. So Elise and Pete were a team in the Pan Am Bass tournament in Mexico. They're on their way back. Pete's truck broke down. They're stuck in Texas right now. I'm so glad you're watching. Shout out to you guys, and please drive back safe. And I followed along best I could. Congrats on the 3rd place finish. What an awesome experience and an awesome place. Congrats again. Good job, guys. Well done, Canada.
Absolutely, 100%. And of course, those Mexicans they're great sticks. You know, we don't give them the accolades they deserve. And I know Moose talked about it when they came up to New Brunswick, and he was just stunned at how well they performed. And think of it, like they're in waters that they've never fished before. And to be able to be that competitive truly is remarkable. But of course, the flip side is, you know, we go down there, and to get a 3rd place finish is nothing to sneeze at either. So
it's great. And just the experience of it, like and especially Pete fishing with his daughter, like that's just so awesome. Like I saw all that going down, and I'm like, I said to Heather, I'm like, look how cool this is. Like, that's great. I know what it's like to fish with your kid and have experiences like that, but be able to go to the Pan Am Games and like fish with your daughter, like that is just awesome on its own.
Amen.
And shout out to everyone who competed in that event. Some good friends did. I know Phil Curtis. I work with him at DFO. He's a great guy. He just got back. He went to New Brunswick and fished there, and then drove to Mexico. I don't know how he does it. I can't wait to hear about all of it when I see him at the office next time. Just everyone's out fishing. We need bass season to start now. I said to Trevor on, I'll end with this. On Sunday, we're loading up the kayaks. We just finished catching like 30 bluegills in the 9 to 9.5 inch range, Scotty. Like some of the best bluegill fishing anyone's seen, like not just us. And I said, I just want bass to open. Like I said, I'm okay if the kayak sits on the trailer for the next 3 weeks. I want bass season to open. I am done filling the void. Let's get it on. And I know I could drive north. I don't want to have to drive 5 hours to go bass fishing. Let's get it on. All right.
Boom. Right on, Jay. Well, listen, I know you're busy and you want to get some sleep to get caught up for tomorrow, and make sure you set the pace as you always do. Thank you so much for your time, dude, and of course your energy, positivity, and insight into our industry and community. No one does it better, bud.
Thanks, man. It's a great show tonight as always, and we'll see you next week, Scotty.
Amen, brother. You take care of yourself. All the best. There it is. Another wrap, another Monday in the books. Thanks so much for all of you for joining and spending 2 hours with our beloved panel. We can't thank them enough for all that they do. Truly appreciate the work that they do behind the scenes, of course, for all of us anglers, all of our community, in Jay's example, all of it that he does for our fisheries and the management of those fisheries. I can't thank him enough for his dedication. Truly is something that I hope he feels he gets the pat on the back and the accolades. And I know he doesn't do it for that reason, but he is just as much revered as Dr. Gord Pizer, in my opinion, in this industry, and continues to do so just because of his it just seems like it never ends. His giving to what we enjoy as our fishery and our fishing community. Big shout out to Jay for bringing us all together and being the glue that binds us like he does. Have yourselves a great week. As Jay said, get out there and enjoy this weather that's coming this weekend. Bass season's just around the corner, but a lot of other fisheries are starting to wake up and become productive and hungry as well. So get out there and enjoy what should be a great weekend of fishing. Until next Monday, we'll see you all then. Take care. Love you all. Stay safe. And hopefully you catch yourself a PB. Dave, it's time to take us away, bud. It's all on you. You know what to do.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.